1. Hugo Duchamp lowered his foot onto the first step and realized he could go no further. Though he deplored the use of the word literally, he felt for the first time in his life it was appropriate. He was literally frozen to the spot. From behind him, he heard an irritated tut, and then another. But despite his silent cursing and chastising of himself, he was unable to compel his feet to move. Despite his best intentions, he was, at that point, not convinced he would be able to take a step forward any time soon. Yes, he appeared to be literally stuck. He inhaled deeply. The air was intoxicating, filled with hundreds of different scents that flowed around his body, filling his lungs and causing him to hold his breath. "Excusez-moi, monsieur, je suis pressé," came the first voice behind him. He glanced over his shoulder at a middle-aged grande dame. Her lips were pinched tight and her eyes had narrowed into two pins encased in a harsh coal outline. He opened his mouth, poised to offer some response. But as it appeared that his day was now to be a combination of disappointment in himself and blind panic, not even a low groan escaped his dry throat. How could he explain it to the coiffured lady when he could not explain it to himself? An Englishman behind her had the bright idea of nudging her with his shoulder, hoping for a domino effect that would surely push Hugo onto the platform. The grande dame spun on her heels and fixed the Englishman with a look that caused him to recoil and shrink within himself. Obviously unused to the power of such a formidable opponent, he mumbled an incoherent apology before both he and the grande dame turned their full attention back to Hugo. "Est-il un problème de monsieur? Avez-vous besoin d'aide?" she asked in a tone of voice that reminded Hugo of all the French ladies he had grown up with. It was a unique, heavy-syllabled tone that was both gentle and forceful at the same time. His grand-mère had used that tone on him on more than one occasion, and Hugo was momentarily whisked back to that memory, and realized when his grand-mère used that tone with him, he had mere seconds before the next response would be a swift smack around the back of his head. Spurred into action, Hugo pushed himself forward and threw himself onto the platform, making the bottleneck behind him flow out like a dam that had been breached. The tuts continued as the train's inhabitants poured onto the platform and pushed past Hugo, glaring angrily at him. Hugo dropped his head, causing his mop of blonde hair to fall over his face. He exhaled and inhaled again, taking his first proper gasp of Parisian air for over a decade. Or was it longer? It was true, he believed, that each city, each country had their own smell. Centuries of history left their imprint on atmospheres. Paris, like London, was old, and the pages of its history were littered with sense memories that hung in the air, never able to truly dissipate. The smell of wars, the smell of souls that had come and gone. 10 years may have passed, but his first inhalation of Parisian air was enough to remind Hugo exactly where he was. Surely Grandmère Marie had not been dead for so long. Forcing himself, Hugo opened his emerald-green eyes and took a slow look around the bustling metropolis that was Paris Gare du Nord. Normally he loved railway stations. He had always felt there was something romantic about them, a mixture of danger, excitement, and the promise of the unknown. Lovers parting, lovers meeting, tears, laughter, fear. All types of life were visible in stations like Gare du Nord. Young, old, rich, poor, everyone travelled, and until the rich could hide behind the expensive doors that protected them in their executive lounges, they all had to tread some well-travelled pathways. The enormity of what was happening to him overwhelmed him, and he slumped against a baggage rack. That was when he noticed a station guard watching him, eyes alert with suspicion. Hugo closed his eyes again and held his breath. "Pull yourself together, Hugo. You are being an idiot," he chastised himself. "You are a 34-year-old detective superintendent from the London Metropolitan Police. Stop acting like a bumbling idiot." He had known this day was coming for a few weeks and had tried to prepare himself as best he could. As was often the case with something not in one's immediate future, he had managed to convince himself that it was so far off it was not even worth thinking about, as if burying it would somehow prevent it from happening.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.